Good morning. I haven't posted in a while and I'm sorry. I noticed that not many people are watching, and that's okay because I still need the practice. But I am still here. It's just been busy lately. So I thought today we would talk about alignment and joint health a little bit. This is not a full session. It's just to give us something to think about. And as runners, I know we kind of piecemeal yoga, put it together, do a few poses after a run, before a run, but not, typically we don't do a full session as runners. So these things are important though. So alignment. My suggestion is to look in a mirror. If you are living with somebody or you're in contact with somebody, have them look at you straight on. Sometimes it's helpful to have an outside perspective. Is one shoulder higher than the other? Lift up so you can see your waistband. Is one hip higher than the other side? So even ankles, sometimes you can be a little bit off, and that may not be one leg longer than the other. It may be the way your feet are kind of positioned. But think about where these discrepancies are happening, in the body, and which side is higher. The higher, let's say your shoulder is up a little bit, the side that's a little bit skewed higher, it might be telling you that there's some aches and pains, tightness in there. The side that's kind of lower might be telling you that there's some weakness or some misalignment issues that you want to pay attention to on that side. So some basic things you can do is, once you have this information, let's say this shoulder is slightly higher. It usually is not a marked discrepancy, especially if we're runners, because we're figuring it out, right? So one of the things that you can try, this probably works better on a stair, but because I am in my basement and the camera's not on the stair, we're going to put this here. But if you're on a stair, what you're going to do, and you're going to do this on both sides, but the side that you're a little bit higher, you might want to do it a little bit longer. Okay, so something to think about here. Okay, so the way you want to do this, and I know you can't see all of me, but just try to imagine. I'm stepping on the stair or the block, okay, and then you just kind of swing this leg. And the important thing is kind of relax the rest of your body. Because what this is doing is, inside your core and inside all these joints, it's kind of stretching it out a little bit and releasing some of that tightness. If you do have tightness, kind of getting into those muscles and joints that are compressing is helpful. Maybe swing a little bit higher, but mostly just let this go. Relax and breathe into it, and do this for a few minutes. You can time yourself, you can count whatever works best for you, and then you're going to do the other side. Okay, and again, same thing. Breathe into this. Try to feel this side really relaxing and unwinding and releasing all that tightness that might be affecting your form and your alignment. So you're going to do this quite a few times. Running, the impact puts a lot of pressure on our joints, and so releasing them in one way or another can be helpful to getting back into alignment. Okay, so now what you would do after that is, once you've done one full set, you're going to want to go to the side that was higher, tighter, felt a little bit tweaky. Do that side again. Okay, so that it would seem like a normal situation. You try to balance, you try to pay attention to both sides equally, but when we're working on alignment issues, the side that seems to be more problematic, you're going to want to do twice as long. Okay. The other thing that you can do is if you have a high shoulder, you can stand against the wall. Let me make sure I'm staying in the camera. And put your hand straight up against the wall. I'm in the basement, so my walls aren't as high. My ceilings aren't as high. So, but stand right next to the wall and just put your arm up and stand next to the wall. Try not to knock your picture frames over. So try to stand next to the wall and just lift that arm up and straighten it into the wall if you can. Stay maybe a few inches away from the wall, and you're just going to press into that for a few minutes. Again, both sides, and then go back to the side that seemed problematic for you. So if you had, when I say problematic, you want to go to the weaker side, because what this is doing is essentially strengthening this shoulder, this arm, just a little bit, okay? So if let's say you have this shoulder that's down a little bit, it might be sleeping a little bit, it might be weak a little bit. So to activate that and add some strength in there, you're going to want to just press into that twice as long on that side. So both sides, and then a second time on the problematic side. Okay. The other thing that you can do, and this might be more difficult for me to show you against the wall and turn away from you. So what you want to do is stand with your feet maybe hip distance apart. Let's pretend this table is the wall, and just sort of press into it a little bit. So this is a hip strengthener. Just press into it a little bit. Okay, do that on both sides and see how that feels. And what is a good practice is to, you know, before you want to take a minute just to feel these imbalances. So when you're looking in the mirror, kind of sense in your body how it feels to have one side, you know, whatever it is, a little bit off. And then afterwards, kind of take a few steps, walk around and see how it feels, and hopefully you're in a little bit better alignment. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about today is joint health. And joint health is something that I feel pretty strongly about as a runner and as a yoga teacher. So we, as runners, I think we tend to try to overdo it in yoga class because we can kill it. We're very physically active people, very healthy, very, so we can go into yoga class and we can try to get the full expression of the pose and, just go after that like deep, intense stretch and show off what we can do, right? But you got to take that back, brahmacharya, right effort, If you're familiar with the yamas and the niyamas, basically feeling into the pose and making the right amount of effort that's not driven by your ego or not driven by your desire to be accepted or to be praised, right? So you're just thinking, what's best for my body? What feels most comfortable and what is going to be best for me? And one of the poses that I believe in adapting as runners is triangle pose, because there's something like 15 or 16 joints that are tweaked in triangle pose. So, if you look at it, you've got like an ankle down here that's at this sharp angle. You've got the hip joints, and you've got this twist happening. You've got all these joints that are sort of, skewed and twisted, and you've got a lot of things happening in the body. And this tends to be a pose that we can hyperextend in. We can go beyond the range of motion quite easily. Triangle is also a great pose on many levels, but the important thing with triangle is that we pull it back, and we don't go as far as we can go, because that's going to put a lot of strain on those joints, and then we're going to go out run, and we're going to do some damage to our joints. So pull it back. And also focus on what's happening in triangle. So when you're in this position, feel where is the stretch? Right here. You know what I mean? And focus on that. So don't boom, like, look what I can do. But instead, think about where is it happening, right? So, and I also am a big believer in putting a gentle bend in the knees, again, to avoid hyperextension. So, a little bit of a bend in the knees. Baxter Bell is, he adapted this pose because I think he's an anti-triangle person like myself. So because there are so many great things happening in this pose, but I think it goes a little bit too far. There's too many things happening during triangle. So what he did was take one thing away. So if we're here, right, which is essentially warrior one, right? So you've got a slight angle in this back foot, right, pointing out, and then this foot is straight. Try to keep your knee aligned with your ankle, aligned with your foot, right? Give yourself a twist so you're almost facing this way, and then arms straight out, parallel to the floor, okay? And the way he adapted this is to basically say pizza in the oven, right? So you're doing just the forward shift and feeling that great stretch that you can get in this hip, in this back, the hip that's towards your foot in the back, right? So just pizza in the oven, getting this wonderful stretch out of it, getting some extension in the spine, trying to keep the arms parallel and straight. I'm moving them a little bit so you can still see me, but pizza in the oven. So, right, you're still getting a little bit of movement. You're still getting this great stretch. You're still getting this great stretch in the hip. Pizza in the oven, okay? We don't want to walk around funny all day like Richard Simmons used to say. Whatever happened to Richard Simmons? Has anybody heard that podcast? There's a great podcast. I think it's called Missing Richard Simmons, or whatever happened to Richard Simmons. Finding Richard Simmons? I don't know. Okay, so here we are in alignment. Again, this is one of those poses where you try to imagine that you're in a straight line in your body, so no collapsing, no moving forward anywhere, right? So you're straight. Okay? This front foot forward, knee aligned with that front foot, this back foot at a slight angle, kind of going this way, going out, right? So you're feeling the stretch here, you're feeling it on this inner adductor, and then when you do your pizza in the oven, you're feeling it on that back hip, okay? So you're just hinging forward, you're feeling it in your spine, feeling it in your hip, getting some great strength out of this, but not going too far like we do in triangle pose. Don't forget this gentle bend in the knee, right? So we're in warrior one, we have more of a deep bend, but we're kind of a little bit here, so we've just got a gentle bend, and monitor yourself, make sure that knee stays over the foot. I like to do this because I like to move my palm up, because then it feels more like I'm putting a pizza in the oven. And Baxter Bell actually calls this pizza in the oven. Pizza goes in the oven, right? And feel that stretching. It's really great, and you're not doing damage. You're not putting a ton of pressure on those joints. So it kind of checks all the boxes of giving you a really great stretch and not overdoing it, and also not putting you in the frame of mind of, look what I can do. Nothing wrong with that sometimes. Come on, let's be real. But when it comes to like joint health, and it comes to, preparing us for going out and doing some hard efforts out on the trails and the roads, you want to take care of your body and be gentle. As runners, the goal isn't yoga. As runners, the goal is running. So we use yoga as a tool. We are not trying to prove anything in yoga class. We're trying to we're trying to heighten the running experience and try to improve our performance and have really great, miles out there. So think about that. And I will revisit some of these adaptations to poses for runners to make them really work for us in future videos. And I will be doing more sessions, so stay tuned. But those are some things to think about. Alignment, joint health, very important things. Play with the alignment issue. If you're weak on one side, strengthen it. Work on balance things. If you find that, let's say, tree pose is easier on one side than it is on the other, that's giving you some valuable information. How can you use that? What's happening on the other side of the body that is either weak, tight, compressed in some way, and how can you work with that to create better alignment? And the pandemic and what's happening right now in our world, this is a great time to drop into ourselves and focus on the things that we've been neglecting for a long time, and think about what we need to do to improve to be better runners. And alignment is one of those key things. So if you go to look at yourself in the mirror and you're seeing things are off, and you're out there running and you're seeing things are off, you've got tweaky things happening all up and down on one side, and one side only, I'm guilty, then there's an alignment issue. So, even if, I look at myself in the mirror, it's pretty even. I only have problems on my right side. So what's happening there? Don't forget, look at your hips, look at your feet. A lot of things could be going on, so stay open-minded about it. Accept that it's not going to be an easy fix. It'll probably take some investigation. It'll probably take some, yoga work and feeling your way through poses to think, okay, I just did a pose. Something is not working on one side. This hip is not in alignment with this hip, and something there is not exactly lining up, and I can't figure out what it is. So let's work on it. Let's pay attention to it. Let's pay more attention to our hips. Let's do more hip openers. Let's do more poses that are really going to get in and figure out what's happening there to try to turn that around. So it's an investigation. Go towards it. Okay, thank you, and namaste.